Today, we're diving into a really interesting idea. What if artificial intelligence could completely reshape the classroom? We're going to explore how AI could transform that classic one-size-fits-all model into a truly personal learning journey for every single student. And we're basing this all on an insightful piece by Mohammed Abdallah, so let's get into it.
All right, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at the problem with our current system. Then, how AI might be the solution. We'll get into how it actually builds a profile for each student and what that means for the teacher's job. Of course, we have to talk about data privacy, and then we'll wrap up by picturing what this new school environment could look like.
So let's start with a problem that I think pretty much everyone can relate to, the one-size-fits-all classroom. I mean, why is it that when you teach a whole group of kids the exact same thing in the exact same way, you get such wildly different results?
Well, a huge part of it comes down to a simple truth. We all learn differently. Think about the VARK model. In any classroom, you've got your visual learners. They need to see it. You've got auditory learners who need to hear it. Then you have those who learn best by reading and writing. And finally, the kinesthetic learners who just need to get their hands on it and do it. You can see how one teaching style is never going to work for everybody.
And this is what happens, right? When you force that one style on a diverse group, the class almost always splits into these three groups. You get a big bunch of average students in the middle. The pace works okay for them. But then you end up with students on either side who are either struggling to keep up or bored out of their minds.
And this has some pretty serious consequences. Students who are struggling get left behind. But just as important, your exceptional students get held back. They're not being challenged to reach their full potential. And look, it's not the teacher's fault. They just don't have the time to create dozens of unique lesson plans. It's the model itself that's broken. So you gotta ask, is there a better way?
And that's exactly where AI comes into the conversation. The idea here isn't to just work harder inside the same old system. It's about using technology to completely tailor the learning experience for each and every student.
So what is AI-driven personalized learning, really? Well, it basically flips the whole script. Instead of making the student fit the curriculum, the AI makes the curriculum fit the student. It's all about creating a unique educational path based on that one learner's profile, their pace, and what they specifically need.
And the AI plays a lot of different roles to make this happen. You can think of it as a shadow teacher, always there to help. It's also a course designer, figuring out the best path forward. It acts as a content creator, serving up the right material at just the right moment. And it's an assessment consultant, constantly checking in on progress.
Okay, but how in the world does the AI know what each student needs? Well, it all starts with building a really detailed and, importantly, a dynamic profile for every student. To get that initial picture, the AI pulls in data from a few key places. You have the teacher's own observations, their expert take. You get input from parents about the home environment. And you even get the student's own perspective from self-reports. All of that comes together to create a really rich, holistic starting point.
But, and this is so important, that profile isn't set in stone. It's not a one-and-done thing. It's a living, breathing document that is always being updated.
So how does it evolve? Well, it's tracking two main things. First, there's learning performance. Pretty straightforward, right? Is the student getting the concepts or are they struggling? But second, it's also looking at character development. Are they curious, resilient, engaged? The AI uses this constant feedback to tweak and adjust that student's learning path, literally in real time.
Now, when you have such a massive change in how students learn, it's only natural that the teacher's role is going to change too. A teacher is no longer just the person standing at the front of the room.
This really shows the shift. The old school instructor delivers the same lesson to everyone, but this new learning manager, they're monitoring the insights the AI gives them, they're running dynamic workshops, and they're spending their valuable time actively managing student progress and jumping in to help exactly where they're needed most.
So let's be super clear here. The AI does not replace the teacher. Not at all. Think of it as the world's most powerful teaching assistant. It handles all the data crunching and logistics, which frees up the human teacher to do what they do best: mentor, inspire, and connect with their students.
Now, of course, anytime you start talking about collecting this much data, especially about kids, you have to talk about the huge elephant in the room: data privacy.
And Mohammed Abdallah, the author of the piece we're looking at, says it perfectly. We absolutely have to acknowledge that the very data that makes this whole system so effective could also put student privacy at risk if we're not incredibly careful.
This means that schools have to put some serious security in place. We're talking about things like strong user authentication, so only the right people get in. We're talking about strict limits on who can see sensitive data. And of course, encrypting everything. These aren't suggestions, they have to be non-negotiable.
Okay, so let's say we can get the privacy piece right. What's the end game here? What kind of new school environment does all of this actually lead to for students?
The benefits could be huge. Because this way of learning is so much more efficient, students actually spend less time just studying. And that time they get back, they can pour it into cool group projects and social activities, which is where they learn those crucial skills like teamwork and communication. It really helps build a more supportive and collaborative classroom.
And when you zoom out, the ultimate goal is to get rid of those performance gaps we talked about at the beginning. Instead of sorting kids into boxes, this approach is all about lifting everyone up, helping every single student achieve more than they ever could have had in the old system.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If we can let an AI handle the what of learning, the facts, the figures, the lesson plans, how does that free up our amazing human teachers to focus on the why? How does it empower them to spark curiosity, to build purpose, and to instill a real, genuine love of learning?